You are not the loudest person in the room, not the one bragging or shouting to be seen. Somewhere deep inside, a familiar thought is already playing on repeat. I see further than they do. I understand more than they do. I'm not like everyone else. On the outside, there is politeness, a slight smile, sometimes even shyness. On the inside, there is an unspoken feeling. I'm above this. Not in terms of status or money, but in terms of intellect, depth, awareness. And the world almost always rewards this. You are quiet, you don't cause problems, you observe, you draw conclusions. But no one ever asks, what is actually happening in your psyche when you start secretly placing yourself above others? This video is not about narcissists who openly demand attention. It is about a much subtler pattern. People who seem humble, but live with a constant inner sense of hidden superiority. Those who listen and nod, but silently label everyone in their mind shallow, immature, too emotional, doesn't understand the obvious. Those who can say everyone is equal, yet deep down do not believe it for even a second. And today, we are going to explore where this comes from, what it costs to maintain it, and why this feeling never truly lets you rest, even though it can feel so sweet. Because people who secretly feel superior to others are not just proud or overconfident. Often, they are the most wounded, anxious, and lonely people in the room. These are the ones who chose the feeling of superiority as armor, as the only way not to feel worthless. And while it may look like they are gazing down on everyone from above, inside, they are endlessly afraid that someone will get close enough to see the truth. They are not nearly as special as they have convinced themselves they are. Let's start at the root. In childhood, a child learns two fundamental things. Who am I? And where is my place among others? If there are adults nearby who see the child, support them, and still set healthy boundaries, the child gradually forms a stable inner sense. I am valuable, just like everyone else. But when something goes wrong, a distortion appears, and one of the most hidden distortions is an early form of protection. Since you won't let me feel worthy, I'll make myself special. I'll be above you, at least in my own mind. This can happen in many ways. A child is constantly compared to others. Look how stupid, lazy, shallow everyone else is, and you are different. Or the opposite. They are humiliated and devalued, and the only way to preserve any self-respect is to think, they just don't get it. I'm deeper, I'm smarter, I'm better. Or the child encounters chaos and injustice too early and survives by thinking, I've seen the truth, I see the world as it really is. The rest are blind. This is how a thin crack appears in self-esteem. On the outside, there is a mask. I've got everything under control. On the inside, there's a fragile balance that depends on comparison. To feel normal, someone else has to seem worse. It doesn't have to be obvious. Quiet thoughts are enough. I would never do that. They live on autopilot. I have nothing to talk about with them. Gradually, this turns into a fixed pattern. You don't ask for help because no one will understand you on your level anyway. You rarely admit your mistakes because that would shatter the carefully constructed image of the one who sees further than everyone else. You distance yourself from people because up close, it becomes very hard to maintain the illusion of your own superiority. And here's the paradox. The more a person secretly feels above others, the more deeply they fear being exposed. They are afraid to show weakness. What if it turns out they are just ordinary? They are afraid to admit not knowing something. What if it becomes clear they are not special at all? Just scared? They are afraid of equality. Because equality sounds like losing the only way they know to feel valuable. On a psychological level, this often looks like this. intellectualization. Instead of feeling, a person analyzes. They turn both their own and other people's emotions into data to evaluate. Distance. Instead of closeness, there is observation. Instead of dialogue, there is an internal commentary. Hidden contempt. Not always in words, but in tone, in small facial expressions, in tired looks when someone is too emotional or too simple. It is important to understand this is not inborn coldness. This is protection. Behind it almost always lies shame, a sense of insignificance, and experiences where being just yourself was not safe. At some point, a person made an unconscious choice. I'd rather see myself as above everyone than feel below everyone again. And this is exactly why many people who secretly feel superior to others are, deep down, incredibly vulnerable to criticism. On the surface, they may respond calmly, with boredom, even with irony. But inside, it can shatter their sense of self because the criticism hits exactly the place they are trying hardest to protect. What if I'm really not that special? This is where it starts to show up in relationships. In friendships, this kind of person almost automatically ends up in the role of the one who understands more. They listen, analyze, give advice, but rarely ever truly open up themselves. In love, they may choose partners they secretly see as below them in some way, less educated, less stable, more dependent. Not out of malice, but because being with an equal feels overwhelmingly scary. At work, they may look down on colleagues, bosses, or clients, feeling that they are above all this, while at the same time suffering from the sense that no one really sees who I am. The most painful part is the loneliness, because being above everyone automatically means being separate from everyone. When you live too long in the role of observer, judge, the one who has it all figured out, you slowly lose the ability to simply be with people, without analysis, without evaluation, without the constant inner commentary. And sometimes, late at night, in the silence, a thought breaks through that you usually really don't want to admit. If I'm so far above everyone, why am I so lonely? If I'm so special, why does no one truly know me? This is the moment where the most honest part of the story begins. Because beneath the layer of hidden superiority, there's almost always a very simple, very human pain. I'm afraid that if I stop being special, I'll be unnecessary to anyone. I'm afraid of equality, because equality reminds me that I'm just human. And here it is important to say something many people have never really heard. Your right to be valuable does not depend on how much you are above others. You can be intelligent, deep, and observant, and still not build your self-worth on secret contempt for others. You can see other people's illusions and still stay with them, not above them. You can acknowledge your depth without turning it into a pedestal.